For Sunday, October 25th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda this morning, Mayor Reed suggests a summit about the Stone Mountain memorials. Could we just abolish DeKalb? And Joe Biden says he's out of time. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And good morning. We're glad you could be with us. This first segment of the broadcast this morning is going to be virtually all Kasim Reed all the time. He's involved in every single issue that we're going to talk about, except for one in Cobb County. Let's begin with his suggestion that a summit be held to discuss what further memorials might be added to Stone Mountain, specifically that Liberty Bell idea honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Jeff, Kasim Reed seems to want contemporaries of Dr. King to take the lead in the discussion.
Yes, he's been very clear about that he thinks that those who marched with Dr. King have got a clear perspective of what Dr. King would have wanted in this instance, and I think that he's probably right. So he's talking about people like Andrew Young and John Lewis, obviously, Joseph Lowry, C.T. Vivian, the people who were closest to King, instead of, you know, others who claim now to sort of have that mantle and who are out there so early with their opposition. And we've heard the support of those who are with King, most notably, and I think most powerfully, from Andrew Young himself. And also, national TV Friday morning, John Lewis was also very supportive of this proposal.
You mean he left Hillary alone? He sat right behind her during the hearings all day Thursday. I thought the guy had work to do.
Well, you know, I think that he still had a little energy after that marathon session there.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to bring that up. John Lewis wasted a day sitting in a hearing room over something that doesn't even concern him.
Well, it was a waste of the taxpayers' money, too, to even do that hearing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
All right, so Andy Young and John Lewis support some sort of a memorial to Dr. King. The Sons of Confederate Veterans oppose it. The SCLC opposes it. The NAACP opposes it. The governor is now kind of in a jackpot, Phil.
Well, he is, and we talked about that last week. And just for the viewers who may be just coming in on this issue, this is a Confederate memorial to honor the fallen.
By law.
By law. And so I think that the debate now is, and I know Niger Innes has weighed in on this too, son of the great late respected Roy Innes, says, you know, let them have their memorial. There's a lot of honors for Dr. King in Atlanta, as we all know, and around the country. And of course, the Stone Mountain Memorial Association has the last say on this, and I've talked to a lot of these board members. The large majority, if not all of them, are hoping that we just keep it as it is. It's become a very divisive issue, as you point out.
No, wait, Phil, I don't mean to jump on your line there, but I thought one of the things that was discussed by Bill Stevens of the association, right, and Michael Thurmond, a historian, was some sort of a tribute to the black soldiers on both sides.
That's right. That's a separate.
During the war.
I don't think anyone opposes that.
That's what I mean. That's fine. I don't hear that.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. You were talking about the bell tower on top of the mountain for Dr. King.
But I'll go back to one of my favorite quotes that Maynard Jackson used to say. New occasions teach new duties. Time makes ancient good uncouth. It's time for them to alter the state law and change the law so that it can be inclusive of modern memorials to others who are of importance to Georgia, especially along the lines of race relations, the Civil War, etc.
Let me change the subject, and we need a hand gesture on this. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Kasim Reed is talking with the new owners of the Hawks about renovating or rebuilding Phillips Arena. I just ka-ching. And they're talking $250 million. Now, I thought we only did billion-dollar stadiums, but $250 million.
No longer. And again, the hand is out to the city taxpayers. That's a developing story as we're taping. And I'd like to see the whole plans. You may know about it, Jeff, but
I think that we're looking at a retrofit of Phillips Arena somewhere between the area of $150 million and $250 million. And
Luxury
one
boxes on both sides.
That's exactly
Right.
right. And one of the things that we don't know at this point is what piece of that is going to be, some public financing, floating some bonds or whatever. And we don't know that number, but I don't think that we'll be looking at a new stadium. One of the wonderful things about this is that it's really iconic, with Atlanta out front and all that. The location is ideal.
My point is ideal.
The location is ideal. It makes perfectly good sense, and I think that the owners accept this fact that it makes perfectly good sense to stay where they are and to do the renovations, do the retrofit, get the box up to sort of NBA standards, right, or the arena up to NBA standards right now. And yeah, it is a big question. What is that? What's that public financing piece going to be? We don't know yet.
Because the current arena was built with the hotel, motel, or the car rental tax.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
Right.
And so you're running out of people to tax.
But I still think that it's definitely worth doing because it keeps them in town and it keeps that downtown area at being the center for tourism and other occasions, and not just when the Hawks aren't playing. There's other things that can go on in that arena.
All right. In keeping with our theme of Kasim all the time read, there he was in court this week, that Buckhead developer, Rick Warren, who I guess some would call a slumlord. He got 60 days in the slam, Phil.
Well, that's
with
good.
Kasim looking on, licking his chops.
Well, that's good, and I think all of us have agreed that it's a terrible situation around the English Avenue area, and I think it's a message that needs to be sent to these other slumlords.
And especially the absentee slumlords who are making money all over the place and then letting these properties turn to trash.
Now, I had a
and
couple
again, it was the AJC that really spearheaded that story, and I think caught the attention of people at City Hall and others. Wonderful expose on Rick Warren and what he was doing over there in a very important area, English Avenue, right there in the shadow of the new stadium, where you've got the West Side Future Fund, the Arthur Blank Foundation, Invest Atlanta, and so many others really invested and engaged in trying to make that a better community.
Right, and including opening a new park this week.
Well, I saw
English
that.
Avenue Park.
I was going to talk about a couple of other topics. I'll shove them toward the rear, but one thing I do want to talk about came out near the end of the week, and again, it involves Atlanta and Kasim Reed, and that is the future of the Peach Drop. It really hadn't occurred to me until that popped into the news this week that that event on New Year's Eve, which drew huge crowds, was run by Underground Atlanta, I guess. Now there's a new owner of Underground Atlanta, but they don't close until January. So they're saying, if you want it, the city's going to have to do it. The city's saying no, talk to the real estate company. I don't know what's going to happen there. Anybody got any ideas or insight?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
We can just wait till January.
Do it on January 15th after they close?
Yeah.
Well, it is the biggest, and Rob Pitts said to me that,
a lovely
Another
tradition.
one of your great ideas that won't work.
no, but Rob Pitts made the point to me that it's 28 years, that's a tradition.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's the biggest in the Southeast, one of the biggest in the country. So we ought to be doing it.
Yeah.
I remember my kids loved to go down there, though I was a little nervous.
Yeah. I love to watch it on TV.
Yeah, there you go.
Big crowd.
All right, that's it for the Kasim Reed section. All Kasim all the time this Sunday morning. When we come back, Cobb County. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
We're going to go to Cobb County for a moment because we weren't able to get that into the local news segment. Strange case near the end of the week. A lady by the name of Susan McCoy, an attorney who had been protesting Cobb County's public financing of the new Brave Stadium, was arrested and charged with stalking and I believe making terroristic threats against the Attorney General of the state of Georgia, Sam Olens, and two officials with the Council for Economic Development, or the Developers Lobby. And it was over a torrent of emails. And public officials are sort of immune from that sort of thing. It comes with the territory. But she did say in one of the emails that Susan McCoy said that she encouraged these people to drive by her house, Phil, so she could take target practice.
Well, that's terrible. And, public officials have to put up with a lot of abuse, but you shouldn't have to be putting up with that or parking out in front of somebody's house. It's a very bizarre development. So But
she's the one, remember, that she has a white picket fence in front of her place?
Right.
And someone set it afire.
She said someone set it afire, and she was emailing people, linking that to Cobb County, and it sounded like she, had several conspiracy theories in her head there.
Well, she's made some pretty serious accusations. We'll follow that. Now let's turn to really what's going on in state government, if we can, for a moment. Governor Deal was asked this week if he favored eliminating the CEO position in DeKalb County. A little late to the party here. Republicans have been pushing that for more than a decade. But I got to thinking about it. All right, Governor Deal says he'd like to do away with the position. Republicans want to do away with the position. Now 2 Democrats, Scott Holcomb and the new guy, are thinking about doing away with the position. Why not just abolish DeKalb? Really?
No.
This is awful.
Well, we have to have 159 counties by law, but you want to create another one and abolish DeKalb?
Well, we'll do like they did with that county.
We could swap DeKalb for Milton County.
Milton, there you go.
And
Yeah,
North Fulton.
Milton could be the new county.
But
and then we give DeKalb to Clayton County.
Yeah, but I think that has long been the problem, is the structure of the government, and that's what got Burrell Ellis into trouble in the first place, was because the elected position also managed affairs of the county, and I think they should move to the county manager system of government.
Well, I want to reassure our readers that nobody's going to abolish DeKalb County.
I know.
DeKalb County is going to be around.
I know, but I just want to say it.
But the form of government is in serious trouble.
Well, now, Jeff, I'm not sure of that, because I went to the hearings that Dan Weber and Emmanuel Jones ran while they were in the state Senate together. And there was a clear consensus. There's always been a clear consensus. It isn't working, do away with it.
Right.
But what's always stopped that is the black Democrats in the DeKalb delegation. Now we have 2 white Democrats in the DeKalb delegation saying, let's change the form of government. I don't think that changes anything.
I think that all that has transpired over the last year, year and a half,
has made a
changes significantly, and that you're going to see a lot more support for change in the form of government there.
Well, I think the new city movement is fueling this too. And
That's true.
You've seen this debate back and forth to have new cities, and of course we've had some successful new cities here in Georgia in recent years too.
Right, and I also think there's always been sort of a racial overtone or undertone to the whole discussion, because once blacks got elected to the position, then they wanted to change the form of government, and so there's always been that suspicion there that this is somehow a racial attack.
I think that actually it predates that, because you had Leanna Levitan in there, and she had a tough time with the commission.
Well, they had several lawsuits back and forth.
It was designed for a fellow by the name of Manuel Malouf, and Manuel sort of ran a benevolent dictator who ran things with an iron fist, and it fit him very well. It fit Vernon Jones very well, and Vernon Jones was that kind of powerful central figure who could do it. But
no. That's when the county began to
But
go to hell.
overall, well, that's what some people think. It just depends, I guess, on where you live and how you see it. But overall, it's the only county out of 159 that's run that way.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to be working, and it's probably time for a change.
Okay, and by the way, just on the DeKalb corruption front, we should note this week that Robert James, the district attorney, made restitution twice over meals that exceeded county expense allotments. And my favorite was that he went to a restaurant in New Orleans, and first he said it was dinner for 7, then he said it was dinner for 6, and then he told a reporter he didn't know he had dinner with that week. I can remember generally whom I had dinner with.
Especially out of town, right?
Yeah.
And he still has not been held accountable for refusing the Freedom of Information request, which is a misdemeanor crime. That cannot be allowed to stand.
All right, staying with state government for a moment, and Phil and I discussed this during our spare time this week. I had promised myself last weekend that I was going to sign up for this thing called FanDuel, and that I was going to see what that's all about and make some wagers on pro football, and even the PGA you can do. Started doing some reading. There was a complaint from the Justice Department. Just a little trivia. DraftKings, the other one, gambling thing. The largest television advertiser in the country right now. The largest. Wow. So Phil, the lottery says,
Well, let's just set the stage here for our viewers. This is fantasy sports gambling. It's the biggest thing in the country. I mean, you're talking about casino. Have you ever heard of fantasy?
I don't know what that is.
Well,
I've heard of fantasy, but not what you're talking about.
I've
seen these ads, and let me set the stage.
Let me set the stage for you.
Well, that was my point.
Let me set the stage for you. Watch an SEC game or something, and you'll see these come on, these advertising come on, and you're picking teams and you're betting. Now, that's the key word: is you're betting. And as Dick says,
they say you're not.
Well, as you just said,
right?
the lottery, the Georgia lottery, as we all know, is the only recognized entity that can have gambling when you're doing all these games. And of course, as we know, it helps pre-K and these Hope scholarships. So the letter that you're referring to was sent to these two fantasy sports companies out of state, and they're asking, the lottery's asked, what's your legal basis for operating in Georgia? Because only one entity can do gambling.
And I would imagine that lotteries across the nation
Well,
would be sending similar
yes,
letters.
Depending on how their laws are written,
Well,
yeah.
that's right.
If you read it, there's been nothing in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that I could find, but if you read the Wall Street Journal, it's exactly to your point.
Right.
And so there's a lot of questions that are going on here with those two companies.
You know who owns DraftKings, for example?
No.
And why you see it on SEC? Major owner is ESPN,
Oh,
because it promotes their sites and their businesses.
Right.
The other major
Well,
owner,
teams are also buying stock in it.
well, a major investor in one of them is Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
so
So
they're all
it's-
trying to
It
get
is
some
the,
more
well,
money.
and let me make the point about the Georgia General Assembly. We've all been talking about casino gambling and the revenues that could come in if that came here. I don't know if it'll come here or not. But I think the legislature has taken its eye off the ball. I mean, this is a far, far bigger
piece
source
of
of
action.
revenue
Right.
if you want to help the kids and Hope scholarships and pre-K.
Well, maybe they'll get in on that.
My daughter's boyfriend won $8.46 last Sunday on DraftKings on a PGA golf tournament where I couldn't name a single player. But
Yeah.
is there. It's interesting.
Jeff, we'll help you get on these things.
No thanks.
It's all new to you,
No,
right?
no, yeah, and I want to keep it that way.
Just
Right.
remember,
Not
Julio
over
Jones is too
here.
expensive for you. All right, when we come back, Johnny Isaacson and David Perdue are angry. So are a lot of Republicans. We'll explain in just a minute.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Yeah,
I'm sure most of our viewers are aware of all the political maneuvering in Washington in the past week, but there were some things that didn't get the attention that I think they deserved. For example, President Obama vetoed the military spending bill that had been passed by both houses of Congress. David Perdue, Johnny Isaacson, no firebrands there. Both are very upset about it. And note that what President Obama proposes to do is take the Army to levels not seen since 1940, we know what happened then, and the Navy to levels not seen since 1915, and we know what happened then. We're playing politics in Washington, and our nation is being transformed in ways that are almost impossible to measure, Phil.
Well, even a lot of Democrats are concerned about this veto of the defense appropriations bill. Yeah, and in fact, I think this is really going to have some blowback for Barack Obama. And let me finish before you jump on this. Dick's right. We are cutting our defenses at a time when we shouldn't be. And even I think when you look at polling, this cuts across Democrat-Republican lines, and when you've got terrorism on the rise, when you've got to be helping our allies against radical Islam, we are cutting our Navy.
We got Russia in Syria.
Yeah, and so it's the wrong thing to do. We shouldn't be playing politics with this bill.
Well, evidently, Congress played politics with the bill, which is why he vetoed it and sent it back.
How do they play politics with the bill? They do this every year.
Because they included some things that tied the president's hands on some other measures that he wanted to.
Obama doesn't like sequestration. Obama, he wants to change that, and he's using this bill as a battering ram, and that's wrong to use our national defense for
that's
politics.
how it's done. That's why it's called
This
politics.
has not been done before under his. He's using this radical way to cut our defenses.
Let's go
I don't
to-
think it's the first time that we've had a defense bill, spending bill vetoed by a president, whether
Well,
it was
under
because
this
it was too
president.
large or it was too small.
Well,
Under
but-
this president, it's the first time, and I think that he is upset with the way that Congress used gimmicks to go around the spending caps in this instance. I think he's going to be able to go back. We're going to be able to
So
have
you're
a
in
good,
favor of-
strong
you're in
defense
favor of
spending
cutting our
bill.
defense.
He's sending
No,
it back
but
and
I
telling them to
am in
fix it.
favor. I'll tell you what I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of us having a defense level that is in line with where we are
Well, you
right
don't
now
have
in the
it.
nation.
You
And
don't
we
have
do.
it.
We do,
No, you
because we
don't.
have a higher level of technology. We're using our defense resources in a completely different way than we were in 1940. It is I don't think that it is any
And
kind of
certainly
comparison
1950.
when you consider
I
when
wanna
you
move on.
consider
I
that
wanna
we were
move
really
on.
having, we were really
Johnny Isaacson and David Perdue don't know what they're talking about,
I think
and
that
you do.
Johnny
I
Isaacson
want to move
and-
on. Look, this defense bill comes at a time when the Russians are in the Ukraine and Syria, when ISIS is on the prowl, gobbling up the Middle East. Syria's a mess. This is no time to be cutting our defense budget. But political theater in Washington this week, Vice President Joe Biden took to the Rose Garden outside the White House and announced that he was not running for president. But he sounded exactly like he was running for president, didn't he?
Well, it
It
did
was a
sound like
campaign speech.
it sounded like a campaign speech, and I think he's still waiting in the wings. There is an FBI investigation of Hillary Clinton, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. But if she falters, Joe's ready.
Well, Joe Biden said, and I think he's right, that he was out of time in this campaign cycle,
He is out of time, and
especially in light of her debate performance.
And if something were to come up, I think that he might be a candidate because there aren't very many other strong ones. I mean, Chaffee pulled out on Friday
yeah.
after you said he looked like a cartoon character. I think that that's exactly what prompted him to pull out.
Oh,
And
the Saturday Night Live thing on Chafee was, perfection.
yeah, and so I think that he's probably still hedging his bets a little bit, but I don't think that we're going to see a Joe Biden candidacy. I
Right.
don't think that we're going to see an FBI investigation of Hillary Clinton. They're investigating emails. They're not investigating Hillary Clinton, and obviously she fared well in her marathon testimony, and Republicans
They
gave
are
her a
investigating
significant
Hillary
boost.
So because of her emails.
By the way,
well, I think
so I
after
was-
yesterday's testimony, she cleared up everything. And for the 1500th
Oh,
time.
she's raised more questions, Alexis.
No, please.
Oh, she's raised more funds for her campaign.
That
Well,
is
let me
true.
say this.
That's true.
And she made
That
a
is
believer
true.
out of me, I'll tell you that.
We've got to get out, but
Yeah.
look, I was toddling along on my new hip. In other words, I wasn't going anywhere, so I watched most of the hearings.
Right.
Holy mackerel. She sent an email to her daughter under a pseudonym the day after the attack in Benghazi saying that it was Al-Qaeda that did it.
And
Yet she went along with that fiction on 5 talk shows that it was a video. I think Phil's right. She has raised more questions than she has
absolutely
answered.
not. That was not her position to do those talking points. That came from the CIA and the White House and
But she
other
knew about it.
departments.
She went along with the deception.
was
That's
speaking
outrageous.
privately. She
You
wasn't
want
going on
a
to-
president to do that?
We
No,
have
no, no.
75% of the American people who believe that these hearings are politically motivated, and I don't see how that redounds to the benefit
And you've
of
got
Republicans.
you've got
I just
70
don't.
you've got 70% of the American people saying that this country is going in the wrong direction under Barack Obama.
He's not running for president.
All right, we got to get out when we
Thank
come
you.
back. If we haven't already done so enough for your taste, we'll do winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And we will begin that process with Jeffrey.
Well, thank you. You said it was Kasim Reed all the time. Well, he's my winner because it's Kasim Reed all the time and his leadership on so many matters. But in this instance, on the Stone Mountain Memorial and calling for a summit among civil rights leaders, I think that you were concerned last week that this put the governor in a tight spot. I think that this gives the governor some breathing room if he has that kind of a summit and is able to bring together sort of a consensus of civil rights leaders and others around this issue. And I think that some of the opponents should be involved. I'm not so sure that all of the sons of Confederate veterans are opposed to this, for instance, and they can be a part of that conversation and part of that summit. My other winner is going to be Hillary Clinton because she did comport herself well
Yes,
in
she did.
11 hours
Cool
of
as a
testimony. I think that Republicans were trying to put her on the spot, and what they end up doing is just elevating their opponents, and that's exactly what they did in this instance, you've got 75% of the American people who think that this is politically motivated, especially among independents, and they're just not doing themselves any favors by giving her a full day of TV. That's exactly what they did.
And they dumped email the day before the hearings, 1,000 emails. Come on, people see through that. All right, Alexis, what do you have?
Okay, I'm going to start with the Buckhead Cascade chapter of the Lynx. They celebrated their 20th anniversary of friendship and service serving the community, so congratulations to them and Gail Tucson Washington, their president. Also, I'm going to follow up last week. You know, I told you Billy Aaron was having a birthday party to benefit the United Negro College Fund. Well, she did, and the birthday attendees raised $100,000, and she announced that she was going to match it. So that's a winner for the UNCF, $200,000 more for scholarships for students. And then Allison Dukes is the new Atlanta Division President, Chairman and CEO of SunTrust Bank. So congratulations to her.
All right, Phil.
All right.
Well, I've got a winner, and it is Congressman Lynn Westmoreland from Georgia, and I thought he had some of the most probing questions during the Benghazi hearing.
Agreed.
And just let me have my say here, because I'm also going to make the loser of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Typical, misleading, liberal headline, lots of shouting, but few answers, just like the New York Times headline. That's wrong. And there was a lot of answers that were taken, and we've talked about some of the answers that were given, and some of the questions that still rise. And Westmoreland said, you know, how come 4 Americans are dead? You know, there was obviously a security lapse under your watch.
We got to get out, and it's a hard wrap.
Like 9/11.
Falcons against the Tennessee Titans today, 1 o'clock on Fox. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
All right.